Good morning. Good morning to
Yeah.
all of you. Welcome to all my friends and colleagues. I'm grateful to the chamber for giving me this chance to present this topic before you all. When Sharma ji so sincerely requests, there's no way anybody can decline his request. And when we see Sharma ji with so much commitment in all these seminars, etc., we feel really small because even at this age, he attends all these functions very sincerely and seriously and fully prepared. I'm also thankful to Vipul to be the moderator of the session. I've already spoken to him and I told him that he knows me very well. He knows how I'm not that strong in section 68, 69, etc. And I request him to uh, interfere or enlighten the discussion at any stage he wants. And Dilip Bhai was mentioning that Vipul is a fighter whenever any amendment comes, etc. I'm only reminded of his legendary father, B.C. Joshi, who was a Dion in this subject. And Vipul Bhai, according to my estimate, without misunderstanding, is only 25% fighter of what Mr. Joshi sir was. Then you can imagine how religiously and what seriously he used to fight all these injustices. It's a great personality. You all may not have had an occasion to interact with him. I have interacted with him a number of occasions. It's a privilege. So my affinity to Vipul is on the score also. Okay. With this introduction, we'll start the today's discussion. I am grateful to two of my colleagues, Sriram Srinivasan and Sriram Sridharan, for the presentation. But I must also at the outset thank two other colleagues of mine, Sahil Pargi and Somesh Jain, with whom I have discussed the matter repeatedly, and their contribution in clarifying my thought process is immense. Okay. And the structure of the slides is by Sriram, though suggested by me. If there are any errors in that, those are entirely mine. Okay. We will generally deal with Binami under the civil law. It is not that complicated, but my request to you all is kindly bear with me, kindly understand the nuances of civil law related to Binami to the extent relevant for our purpose. And then this act in question is very easy to follow. I must honestly tell you, I've never read this act for the last 4 or 5 years. I read it once about 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't want to read it till the time I read trust law. And during this lockdown, first thing I did was to get hold of a book on trust law, read it for about 2 months. After reading the trust law, then I looked up the Benami law, relevant portion of it, and then I read this act. Then it becomes very simple. So it's very important that we understand the law principles, civil law principles under the Benami. Then this act is very easy to follow. Some bit of knowledge about trust law, income tax lawyers, large knowledge of trust law, income tax lawyers always have. Okay. Some portion of the trust law relevant for the present purposes also you'll touch upon. Then development of Binami transaction, the law as it stands today, and what are the issues we can deal with. My Hindi is poor, but I think the name Binami has been subject to a lot of Badnami. Everybody thinks that Binami is unholy thing, fraudulent thing, manipulated thing, and something sinister, etc. Binami is not all that. There are genuine Binami transactions also. Of course, there's not any law which has not been abused. As Justice Bhagwati pointed out in that R.K. Garg's case, when special borrower bonds constitutionality was challenged, when it was Mr. R.K. Garg, senior advocate, Supreme Court said the special bearer bond is a premium on dishonesty, rigged with immorality. Whosoever has black money has to purchase the bond. Huh? and you will not ask questions. So you are giving premium on them. Then it was argued before the court that these laws will be abused. The court, Justice Bhagavati for the Supreme Court says, please tell me one law, and particularly a tax law which is not abused. And this he quoted Chief Justice Frankfurter from US Federal Supreme Court. So Benami has been misused by people, but not all that bad. But let us understand what's the meaning of this word Benami and what are the types of civil disputes which arise. As we see from the slide, A purchases the property in the name of B. A pays the consideration, and at the direction of A, B executes registration of the property in the name of C. See, in other words, consideration flows from A. Slides are not clear?
Slides are not there. No. Is it?
I am able to see slides are not there.
Is it?
It is there. Sir, it is there.
It's there. Okay. Yeah, thank
Slides are clear?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's clear. They are clear, sir.
We have circulated them also. People by any chance? Any idea?
It is on the screen, I think. Sir, Sarmari, it is coming on the screen, right? Everybody's screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is there on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So consideration of flow from, I will be spending considerable time in the first 5-6 slides, because once we get the principles, rest is easy. The consideration is flown from A. Seller B, at the request of A, registers the name of X. There is one other important aspect relevant to meaning of the term Benami. I am deliberately ignoring them. We will deal with it little later. Common belief is the document registered sale deed is the name of X. Therefore, X is the legal owner. That's a common misunderstanding. Correct position in law, I repeat, correct position in law is A is the legal owner and real owner. X is only a name lender or a Benami, or as the Privy Council calls, is an alias. You will say, what are you talking, Sridharan? On a Sunday morning, why are you shaking us from our slumber? Registered document is in X name, and he says he is not the legal owner. And A, whose name doesn't figure in the paper document, which is a statutory document, he is the legal owner as a real owner. I repeat, in the eye of law, A alone is the owner, legal owner, real owner. X is only a Benami, alias, name lender. He has no title at all. Don't at this stage ask, how will you prove is a Benami or not? That we will see little later. Once it is established that A has provided the consideration, A alone is the owner, X is called ostensible owner. We will see that later. Section 41 of the Transfer of Property Act calls him an ostensible owner. I was getting confused. How can you imagine courts encourage manipulation, dishonesty, cheating of people when document is in X name? How the court says he is not the owner? The next two lines are the most crucial set of lines in the entire slide. The Privy Council says law is concerned with the true facts and reality of the situation. The substance will override the apparent or the form. I repeat, to tax lawyer who is fully familiar with B.M. Karwar, Supreme Court judgment, CAT was B.M. Karwar, the tax authorities are not entitled to go by the substance of the transaction, ignoring the legal form of the transaction. That's what we are taught in our Kanga Palkiwala. B.M. Karwar, Supreme Court's case, Justice J. Shisa says, tax authorities are not entitled to tax a person on the ground that they are going with the substance of the transaction, not the form. Supreme Court rejected it. Tax authorities cannot ignore the legal effect or legal form of a transaction. If the transaction is sham, that's a different matter. We'll ignore it. We'll deal with it later. Therefore, the Privy Council said, we know A has paid the money. He has purchased the property. X is ostensible owner. Law is concerned not with apparent or created state of affairs. Law is concerned with the true position. Therefore, the principle of Binami is founded on this simple principle. And I repeat, we tax lawyers are not used to this. We are somehow aware of the exact opposite position. But civil law is not concerned with that. Civil law says we will go by the reality. A has paid the consideration. And second point, which I have not put in the slide, the English judges and English lawyers can never accept that the person who was paid the consideration is not the owner of the property. That I have not added here because that's not part of the Binami law. Okay. So because of these twin principles, A alone the real owner, X is only a named lender. X has no legal rights whatsoever in it. Anything it does officially may be in the name of his own name of X, but what is transferred is the property of A. Next line is well known. Holding the property in Binami is a widespread common practice in India for centuries. The Privy Council says so. As we'll see in a later slide, this Privy Council noted in 1864 or so. And when the trust law was made in 1882, they are fully aware of this practice. And they never found that anything was fundamentally objectionable in it. Our federal court, following the Privy Council, also has held so. Binami is not always illegitimate. I'm not giving all the reasons. Sometimes doesn't want to show his wealth to the world. He wants to keep a low profile, particularly when those days, when the state was not in a position to assure the security of its citizens completely and fully. And the local mafias were there. So he didn't want to disclose his wealth to the world. Okay. Therefore, a person buys the property in the name of his servant, drivers, etc. Of course, even those days, Binami transactions were done mala fide. You transfer the property in the name of Binamida to defeat the creditors. You owe money to the creditors to put them off. You buy the property in somebody else's name or transfer the property in another name. This is not a bona fide exercise of Binami position.
Sir, may I interrupt, sir?
Yes, please.
Sir, in case of Mr. X, the Binami owner, who is apparently owner, suppose he sells the property to third party, innocent third party who did not have notice of such Binami. So whether he would be transferring valid title?
Yes, we will come to that when
Yes.
we come to section 41 of the Transfer of Property Act. That will be a slide about 4-5 slides later.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And good point. And Vipul,
Yes.
my request is
Yes.
to keep putting your thoughts as and when necessary. Kindly don't hesitate. And this is a very good point which came from you. Okay. Right. Now, these extracts which you are seeing are illustrations which are part of the Act. Section 81 of the Trust Act has now been repealed. These illustrations are verbatim copy from that illustration. Kindly don't read it just now. I mentioned in the first slide, A buys property, A pays money to B, gets the property registered in the name of X. That is called Binami. I also said there is one other aspect which is important. I am not mentioning it for sake of simplicity. I am now going to refer to this. In the above example, A has paid the consideration, property is registered in the name of X. It will be called a Binami only if A continues to derive benefit from the property. A never intended X to enjoy any benefits of the property. I want to note this sentence very carefully. The Benami law as enacted in 1988 mentioned the first one only. Second one gap ho gaya usme. Howler in the law. 2016 has taken care of that. People generally think A buys property in X name, pays consideration to B, it is Benami. No, it will be Benami if A continues to enjoy the fruits of the property, deal with the property as his own property. It will not be a Benami if A intended to give the property to X. Kindly note in the example I gave, that's the most important point. If A intended the property to be a gift to X, it will not be Benami. It will be Benami only if X is a name lender, A continues to enjoy all the fruits of the property, and X is not having anything in the example earlier. Now see the example given in the act, first example. Very important. A conveys land to B without consideration and declares no trust. It is not a case of a trust. We will see that little later. Next line is important. It cannot consistently with the circumstances under which transfer is made be inferred. The A intended to transfer beneficial interest in the land to B. B holds the land for the benefit of A. Suppose I buy a flat in the name of my servant. Servant doesn't stay there. I stay there. My relatives stay there. Or I let out the property. Rents from that I enjoy. Repairs I undertake. So that's an example of me not intending to gift the property to my servant. I want to enjoy the benefits of the property. How would you do that? You will see from the surrounding circumstances. Document will not say, I hereby declare this is a Benami. Registration will not say I am a Benamidar. You have to infer that. And as criminal lawyers will say, documents and witnesses can lie, documents and circumstances do not lie. I repeat, witnesses lie, documents and circumstances do not lie. That's what criminal lawyers will say. So from the circumstances you have to infer whether A intended to gift it to B or he wanted B only to be a name lender and benefits to be by A. Then B holds the land for the benefit of A. See the second example again. A conveys 2 fields Y to Z and declared trust for Y, but says nothing for Z. It cannot consistently with the circumstances under which transfer is made be inferred. A intended to transfer beneficial interest in Z. B holds Z for the benefit of A. Second field is benefit of A. First field is a trust. Say difference between the first two example. First, there was no trust. Second, one property is held in trust, another is held not in trust, is in Benami. Okay. Then 2 more examples. So A transfers stock belonging to him in the joint name of himself and B. It cannot be considered circumstantial of the transfer is made be inferred. A intended to transfer the beneficial interest in the stock during his life. A and B hold the stock for the benefit of A during his life. B is earlier Benamidar. So the example will say consistently cannot be inferred intended to transfer. In other words, he wanted to make B only a owner on paper with no benefits. Kindly see, look at last example. A makes a gift of certain land to his wife. She takes beneficial interest in the land, free from any trust in favor of A. For it may be inferred from the circumstances, gift was for B's benefit. This is an example where she in turn stays there, or she allows her mother and father to parents to come and stay there. Those circumstances, or she collects the rent, whatever it is. So 2 important legs for it to be a Benami. A should provide consideration. B should register the property in X name. I'm sticking to the example I gave. X is not conferred any benefit, is only a name lender, then it is Benami. If, however, A intended to gift it to X, there will not be Benami. Also, if interest to create a trust We will see that later. Then also it is not Benami. Okay. We saw that Benami transaction common and prevalent in India way back in 82. Judicial recognition Benami transaction date back to 1864. That is, how did judicial recognition took place, we'll also tell you in a minute. 81 and 82 of the Trust Act provide legal recognition to Benami transactions. We will see the section in a minute. Next slide, please. This verbatim introduction, summarizing of the section. This section 81 has been repealed by the Benami Act of 1988. Section 82 of the Indian Trust has also been deleted. Okay, but still we need to know the principle. Where it does not appear, transferor intend to dispose the beneficial interest. Where the owner of the property transfers bequeath, it cannot be inferred consistently with the attendant circumstance that intend to dispose the beneficial interest therein. Transferee legatee must hold such property for the benefit of the owner. We saw the illustrations earlier. This is a section. Illustrations were attached to the section. I first put the illustration, then now show the section. See the next. Statutory protection provided to the owner. A conveys land to B without consideration. A declares no trust in any part of it. It cannot be inferred. Statute protected A by treating him as the owner of the property and B as only the Benami. We'll see section 82 also now. There are no examples in section 82. Examples are given in 81 only. Okay. Let us read 82. And this is exactly the, initially when the ordinance introduced, they delete the 82 only. Transfer to one for consideration paid by another. This is the first example. Where property is transferred to one person for a consideration paid by another person. It appears the payer did not intend to pay the consideration for the benefit of the transferee. Transferee must hold the property to the benefit of the payer. Second sentence is important. It is not intended to be a gift. Okay. Then section 94 is the last, which were deleted by the Benami Act. There is an obligation created on the holder of a property to hold the benefit of the person having interest in the property. Who has the interest in the property? The true owner. The person who has paid consideration alone has interest in the property, and therefore the Benamidar, name lender, must hold it for the benefit of. Okay. Next. Vipul Bhai asked this question. Okay. And you can also note similar provision is there in section 27 of the Act itself. Our 27.2 of the Benami Act as amended in 2016. We'll come to that little later, but section 41 is important. Where with the consent express or implied of the person interested in removal property, a person is the ostensible owner of such property and transfer the same for consideration, transfer shall not be voidable on the ground transferor were not authorized to make it. Benamidar is the ostensible owner. A is the beneficial owner, real owner. B is the owner as per paper documents. We saw B has no legal title. Everything is in A. Now B transfers to C. And C, poor fellow, did not know that B is holding Benami. He didn't have notice. Then A cannot later on turn around and say, B is a Benami. That fellow cheated me. He sold the property and kept the money with himself. As far as C is concerned, A cannot make any claim against C. Whether A can proceed against B is a separate matter. We will see. So section 41, and this remains even today. This is not deleted, etc. And that cannot be deleted. So if the ostensible owner transfers to a third party bona fide for consideration, the real owner cannot say that fellow was sold, my servant. He has no title to it. He cannot sell. He is stopped from that. Section 41 says so. You will also see section 115 of the Evidence Act also incorporates similar provision. 41 and 41 of the Transfer of Property Act, 115 of the Evidence Act leads to the same principle. 115 arrives at the same conclusion on the principle of estoppel, that the true owner, having allowed the Benamidar to effect a transfer, is stopped from denying, as far as third party is concerned, the title of the Benamidar to transfer. Okay, that's what section 115 is. We will see that. Next section of Transfer of Property Act. Section 53 of the Transfer of Property Act takes care of the other thing. Every transfer of immovable property made with the intent to defeat or delay the creditors of the transfer shall be voidable at the absence of any creditor so defeated or delayed. The rest of the section I am not reproducing. 53, 2, 3 are also there. Basically, it means if you resort to Benami transaction to delay or defeat the creditors, then the rights of the creditors are not affected by it. Okay. And they can say, Benamidar is not the owner, you are the true owner, and I will effect recovery from you. So, section 53 of the Transfer of Property. The 41 and 53 Transfer of Property are the two sections of the Property Act which are relevant. Next. We will briefly touch upon trust law, and then what is a trust? You ask a layman, you always think that charitable trust is public charitable trust. But private trusts are also there and very common. We tax lawyers are familiar with that. That's what private trust is. A is the owner of a house. He creates a trust with wife and children as beneficiary. He creates a trust is the incorrect word. He settles, constitutes a trust, declares a trust. The correct word will be declares a trust. Creates is wrong, declares a trust. A settles, transfers the house to the trust. A is a sole trust. He can be trustee also, no problem. Income from letting out the property to be used to maintain wife and children of A. As for the trust deed, the purpose of celt is the property will be held in trust. The income from the trust will be for maintenance of wife and children. Legal ownership is with the trustee. Beneficial ownership public interest is with wife and children. The second sentence I am writing is slightly inaccurate. I deliberately put it. I'll elaborate in a minute, but kindly note this. So A is the owner of the property. He wants to make sure that his children and wife are taken care of. Therefore, he settles the property in trust and says in this trust deed that whatever income is derived from the property will be used for maintenance of the wife and children. Then that's a trust. Legal ownership is with the trustee. Beneficial ownership interest is with the wife and children is the English law. Sometimes our judges do not notice this minute distinction. In India, there is no concept of dual ownership. In England, trustee is the legal owner and beneficial owner, equitable owner is the beneficiary. In India, legal ownership is the trustee and he alone is the owner. The beneficiaries, namely wife and children, are not beneficial owners or equitable owners. They have a personal obligation and right against the trustee. Personal obligation and right to the trustee. Surely the income is meant for them. But if you ask the question whether they have equitable ownership, in India, no. How does it make a difference? Because if they are equitable ownership, then on their death, it passed to their heirs. But if they are only personal obligation and the trustee, if trustee misbehaves, they can bring an action against him. So the second sentence more reflective of the English law. For practical purposes, second sentence is correct. But we want strictly legally, the beneficial ownership is also with the trustee only, because concept of dual ownership is not known in India. However, income will be for their interest. So they may have beneficial interest, not ownership. Trust, English lawyers say there can be express trust. What we saw is an example of express trust. There can be implied trust also, what we call resulting trust or constructed trust. These two words, resulting trust and constructed trust, are not actually used in Indian Trust Act, but judges use them in their judgments. Therefore, I'm referring to it. Next. Resulting trust is an invention of the court based on the justice, equity, and good conscience. Give a simple example. In a classic trust, the trust fails for want of beneficiaries. Suppose A settles the property and B is the trustee. For whatever reason, the beneficiaries are not identified. So A is the owner. He settled the property in trust and declares B as the trustee. Trust has no meaning without beneficiaries. A has forgotten to specify the trustees, the beneficiaries. Or he says general human mankind. That's too vague. Okay. So the trust fails virtually. Then what happens? Can the trustee now say, sir, you have already transferred the trust and settled the property in my name. It is for the benefit of beneficiary. Beneficiary is failed, you are not identified. Therefore, I am the owner. Answer is B now holds it in trust for A. That is called resulting trust. A never intended trust for himself. A created, settled it for some unspecified beneficiaries. Trust failed. Therefore, B must hold, the trustee must hold it for the benefit of A. That's the example of resulting trust. Second example, which is also common, A and B jointly contribute to purchase of property. Property is registered in name of A only. Then there's a resulting trust in favor of B from A. These are the two examples of resulting trust. Okay, next. Constructive trust is other than resulting trust. This is innumerable situations. Constructive trust concept are developed by the courts. In fact, some books on Indian trust law say, if you're not able to answer a particular question from contract law, from transfer of property law, you're not able to answer it from tort law, it is possible that you answer it by theory of constructive trust. I repeat, many legal situations which cannot be fitted in Contract Act or Transfer of Property Act or tort, etc., can be answered by law of constructive trust. And the very simple examples are given. You paid 50 rupees, purchased goods for 10 rupees. The shopkeeper has to return you 40 rupees. The shopkeeper thought that you are given 100 rupees and returned to you 90. And as one of the books says, the customer was telling his friends, how lucky I am. I paid only 50. I got 90 back. He knew that the shopkeeper has made a mistake. Then the customer holds 50 rupees under a constructive trust to the shopkeeper. He never intended it. The customer knew he was not eligible for this 90, he was eligible for 40. But he receives extra 50 is a constructive trust. Okay. I gave you the example, no? Constructive trust can answer many situations which are otherwise unanswerable. Then an agent earns a commission from the purchaser also. He's earning from the seller. Then the secret profit he has made, he holds it in constructive trust. He will say in terms of contract, you are not prohibited me, etc. So number of examples where this constructive trust concepts are there is these two examples. Next. Indian trust does not use the word resulting trust or implied trust or constructive trust. It uses the word obligate in the nature of trust in chapter 9. Marginal note to section 94, which is repealed, uses the word constructive trust. Now section 81, 82 and 94 have been deleted by the Benami Act, because 82 is the one which says if A pays consideration and property is registered in the name of B, B is a Benamidar, B holds it on favor of A. So the law sanctioned, approved this Benami transaction in the form of section 82. That's why we said statutory recognition given to Benami by statutory law. 41 of the Transfer of Property Act, we said ostensible owner. That is one example where the law recognized this Benami. Section 82 expressly said that A pays the consideration, property registered in favor of B, it is not intended to gift it in B, then B holds it for benefit of A. And that is inconsistent with the Benami Act, therefore 82 was repealed by the Benami Act. Before I read the statutory safeguards, I want to give one or two small, now that we know about Transfer of Property Act, Trust Act, and what meaning of Benami is, why all this dispute arose? In the example I gave, first example, A purchases property from B. A pays the consideration to B. A registers the property in the name of X, his servant. He was thinking his servant will be loyal to him, etc., etc. Okay. And there is no harm in registering the property in X name. He believed on faith. Sometime later, the relationship soars, whatever reason. X now says, property is registered in my name, I am the owner. Then A will go to the court, file a suit. Sir, this servant doesn't have this means to purchase this flat. I have purchased this flat. I have paid money for it. Subsequently, all the rents also I have enjoyed it. I never gifted it. Therefore, declare that X is a binamidar. I am the true owner. All the disputes arose in such situation. Initially, A acted on the belief and faith and confidence that X will not betray him. Later on, relationship showed. Then he goes to the court and say, I am the true owner. A says, I am the true owner. What will X say? If you prove, A proves that consideration is paid by him and subsequent rents and all he has enjoyed, and X doesn't have the means to purchase it, A will rely on section 82 and say X is holding in for the benefit of A. What will X say? X says, sir, no, I was a loyal servant out of sympathy for me, goodwill for me. My Malik transferred it to me. It is intended to be a gift. Court has to then decide that the claim of X, that the property was gifted to him, money was gifted to purchase property, or property itself was gifted to him, or X was used only as a name lender. That's how this dispute arose. Law is clear that person who has paid the consideration alone is the true owner. X is only a binamidar. But if it is intended to be a gift, then A cannot later on change his mind. If X initially wanted to be a gift and allowed X to use the property, 20 years later, relationship was not a gift. Nahi chalega. So, whole question of real owner, Benami, arose because court says, how can I allow X to cheat his master when he has not paid for it? Therefore, the concept that A is the real owner, X is only an ostensible owner, a name lender arose. And all the the illustration section 81 says circumstances do not show a trust, etc., etc. Is only to say A did not intend to gift X. This is how the controversy arose. One other slight controversy is A transfers it to X, Binami, to ward off the creditors. After the creditors have gone away, now A wants to claim property from X. Court will not then permit A to back out. In other words, if the transfer to A, X was used as an instrument of fraud by the true owner, section 53 will come into play and A will be thrown out of the court. A will be thrown out of the court not on the ground, he is not the true owner. Not on the ground, he has gifted the property to X. He who has played a fraud on others, court will not encourage him. That's the sequence. So only the 3 points to know. A, purchase in X name, not intended to be a gift. A paid the consideration. X tomorrow wants to rebel and say, I am the owner. Court will not permit it. You have to prove, A has to prove that he has paid the consideration and it did not intend to be a gift. If X proves it is intended to be a gift, then A will fail. However, if this Binami purchase is to defeat the creditors, section 50 of the Transfer of Property Act court will not entertain this suit because that will amount to encouraging fraud. There they are not saying it is not Binami. They are not saying X is the true owner. He says whole arrangement is to defraud the creditors. We will not encourage. This is the background you must know. having seen the background of what is Benami law, what's the trust law, and we have also seen the Provisional Transfer of Property Act, we can now see provisions which were enacted to counteract this Benami. Frankly speaking, I'm not saying in a wrong sense, please don't misunderstand me. The British were clever. They say so long as our dues are unaffected, we don't mind you playing around with anything. So in all the land revenue code, because land was the main source of revenue, they controlled it. If some assessee is in default of land revenue, assessee A is in default of payment of land revenue, the government sells his property to realize the land revenue. Okay. Subsequently, when they sold in auction, P has purchased it. Government got the money. Thereafter, A goes to the court and say, so P has purchased, P is a Benami, okay, it is my property. The Bengal Revenue Code said in such a case, suit is not maintainable. In other words, if the true owner puts up somebody to purchase property in an auction sale, subsequently he files a suit claiming that the purchase is a Benamidar, I am the true owner, section said such suits are not maintainable. The reason is the legislature wanted to uphold the purity of court sales. They wanted to get the best possible price. If Benamis are allowed to enter, touts are allowed to enter the scene, then property will not fetch the best price. And therefore, how to tackle it? They said anybody who has purchased in a court auction, somebody should not later on file a suit saying the purchaser from the court auction is my Benami, I am the true owner. Regulation 11 barred it. Section 66 of the CPC also barred it. Okay, these were the provisions existing for a long time. Now we come to 281A. This has nothing to do with the first 2 points. It's a completely different point. Introduced by Taxation Law Amendment Act 1972. I understand 281A said, if you purchase a property Benami, you must disclose in your return or file an intimation to the income tax officer saying, A says, I am the true owner, I have purchased Benami in the name of B. Such intimation will be given to the income tax officer. As shown in the return. If you do so, later on, if you commits a breach of faith, and he wants to claim ownership of the property, then you can go to the court and file a suit saying, Mr. B is a Benamidar, I am the true owner, I have already shown in the income tax return. If you do not do so, court will not enter in a suit. 281A should really be an amendment to Civil Procedure Code. It should be an amendment to Transfer of Property Act. Parliament chose to amend it to the Income Tax Act. It said, if you do not intimate the Income Tax Department, then if the true owner goes to civil court asserting his rights against the Benamidar, court will dismiss the suit. That's what 281A is. We've already seen section 41 and we already seen 115 of the Evidence Act also. Okay. Right. Before we go to this Benami law, Sharmaji and Vipulbhai told me, sir, we are interested in the interplay between income tax and Benami law. I know you're all experts in income tax law. You may be less expert in Benami law. Therefore, I was focusing on that and didn't want to expose my ignorance of income tax law. But whatever little I know of income tax, I will touch upon before reading these slides. What I am telling you is unconnected with the slides. In the example which I gave in the very first slide, A is the true owner, X is a named lender. Income derived from the house property is taxable at the hands of A only, true owner only, not in the name of ostensible owner. When I said in the beginning about half an hour ago, why did the civil court bless and encourage the so-called suspicious transactions? They were concerned in the dispute between the true owner who was paid the price and the servant on whose name document is registered. Servant now claims that I am the owner. True owner says that I am the owner. In that dispute, court was saying we will go by the reality of the transaction. We will not go by so-called paper, so-called document apparent. I also said, Justice Jeshisha in BM Karwar has pointed out, it is not open to the tax authorities, or tax authorities are obliged to go to the legal form of the transaction and not go by the substance of the transaction. There's no conflict in the two propositions. Justice Jeshisha was mentioning this because your proprietorship concern transfers all his assets and liabilities to a private limited company and becomes the sole shareholder. There the Supreme Court says proprietor is a separate legal person, the company is a separate legal entity. That the company is virtually the same person may be true, but in law it is not so. The legal effect of a transaction cannot be ignored, and therefore poor A, when he converted himself from proprietary business to private limited company, may be liable to pay capital gains tax or business income, whatever it is. However, A is the true owner, X is the binamidar of the property. Rent has to be taxed at whose hands? Income tax department will not say I will tax X. They will tax the true owner. We all know that Oberai's case. There are, I'll just, citations Sriram gave me. The Rai Bahadur Mohan Singh Oberoi, famous case, everyone knows that. Oberoi Hotel, there used to be a joke. There is a book behind every successful financial empire. At distant past, there is some breach of some law. If you look at Rai Bahadur Mohan Singh Oberoi, the founder of the Oberoi Hotel, he purchased something binami. Maybe I think it's a genuine transaction, the name of wife and children only. Okay. The dividend income is taxable in Mr. Oberoi's hands or wife and children. The Supreme Court held wife and children in the facts of that case are binami. Therefore, the true owner is Mr. Oberoi. Income tax will be payable by him. Please don't misapply BM Karwar here. That's a completely different proposition. In other words, 1 hour ago you were thinking the Privy Council and all are all hand in glove with cheats. They encourage these binami transactions. They said we will give relief to the true owner. Even income tax department caught hold of the true owner and levied tax only on the true owner. Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld it. And the best judgment on this point is judgment of Justice A.P. Sen in Controller of Estate Duty with Alok Mitra. 1980 ka judgment, 1980 or 81. Controller of Estate is Alok Mitra. There he explains that Binamida is a named lender. He has no title whatsoever. Please don't make the mistake that some judgments make. Trustee is the legal owner, beneficial interest with the beneficiaries. But in Binami, this fellow has no legal title. No title at all. He is only an ostensible owner. He holds it for the benefit of the true owner. So, prior to the Binami law, Income Tax Department correctly used to levy tax on the true owner only. These Binami transactions, of course, made it difficult for them if they want to go for recovery of taxes. They don't know what is Binami, what is true, etc. Okay. So, therefore, now we come to the current stage of amendments. Vipulbhai, we can now take over the current stage of amendments. Vipulbhai?
Sir, here the related question is, you were on the first example, sir. That in the given some participant has put a question In the
Yeah.
example given, if X sells the property in whose hands capital gains tax will be taxable. You
It
said
will be at the hands
property.
of A. It will be at the hands of A and A alone.
Yes, sir.
That is what R.S. Oberai's case, ICE and General Mills, SP Jain,
Yes,
ICE
sir.
and General Mills, 121 ITR 547, SP Jain,
Okay,
1973, 87 ITR 370.
right, sir.
You agree that, no? Sharmaji, what is your view?
No, right, sir.
Okay.
Sir, in this case, the buyer will get perfect legal title, as you said, as you say, innocent buyer.
Yes.
So,
Under-
the Benami, so these are the well, except in the case the Benami holder did not have a perfect title, but he could pass better title to buyer.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. In fact, this is similar to section 41 is similar to our Sale of Goods Act, section 28 and 30. Sale by a person under a voidable title. These are exceptions to the rule. A person who doesn't have, no person can pass a title better than what he has. No, we all know, no, you can never pass a title better than what you have. A lessee can never convert absolute ownership. The maximum title he can transfer to his transferees will be leasehold rights. So nobody can confer better title. But clear exceptions are 28 and 30 of the Sale of Goods Act, 41 of the Transfer of Property Act.
Correct.
As I rightly said, purchaser gets a good title if he's a bona fide purchaser. Income tax department will go to A and A alone for recovery of taxes. He is the person liable for income tax. X is not liable. You don't need clubbing provision. Section 60 to 64 are not there. Assume 60 to 64 are not there. True owner alone is liable for income tax. Purchaser gets good title, no problem on that.
So that is, even if the Benabidar has not passed on the consideration to the true owner will be still liable for capital.
Absolutely, because law presumes. Your Upal Bhai's question is brilliant and very good. Even if the Benamidar are not passed on the money to the true owner, income tax department will be entitled to levy tax only on the true owner. The reason is this: law presumes that if a true owner goes to the court, it will compel the Benamidar to hand over the money. That is one. Two, in terms of section 82 of the Trust Act, the Benamidar holds the sale proceeds for the benefit of the true owner. Okay. And you kindly remind me this question when you deal with the 2016 amendment. The department can recover this cash as a Benami property. I will explain it a little later when we come to that. Okay.
Is anything
Anything
more,
else on
Vipul
this? Upal Bhai?
bhai? Vipul bhai?
No, sir, please. Yeah, go. Yeah, no.
So far confusing, clear, half confused, sir.
Sir, clear, totally clear.
All clear to nahi na as per computer language.
No, sir.
When I ask my juniors, clear. Yes, sir, not clear, all clear, sir. Okay. Sir, anybody who wants to get an easy idea of whatever we discussed, need not do much hard work. Okay. Just to read this 20-30 page report of the 57th report of the Law Commission, you get everything. What I said is there, everything is there in that report. Not one thing is outside it. Okay. So the true source of whatever learning is from the 20 pages of the Law Commission report. Except that I read 2-3 times to get clarity. Otherwise, lucidly written and clear. The Law Commission said, you please only, sometimes people are for evasion of tax, credit, etc. Okay, go back. I think this slide has come in the wrong place, maybe. The Law Commission said in 1971, 1973 or so, you don't need to make any changes in your law. You have already put 281A in the Income Tax Act that Benamidars have to disclose that, otherwise they will lose their property. You don't put penalty You don't make it criminal offense. Don't do anything. Please only say parties cannot file civil suits. The true owner cannot file a civil suit claiming property from the Benamidar. So the only recommendation Law Commission said is, you don't need anything else. Please prevent parties from going to civil court and the true owner claiming that my servant is a Benamidar, I am the true owner. You bar such suits. Suit cannot be filed or it cannot be defended. That is enough करके, that's what Law Commission recommended. अब कहाँ आया देखिए 2016 का amendment, we will see in a minute. Okay, आगे next. I want you to see this list of dates. This is somewhat important. We in our customs case, etc., prepare a list of dates for the facts. I started the factory this day, I did this, etc. I realize in income tax, you need to prepare a date chart for this act only, sections only, because so many changes take place. Facts are very simple. Your law alone is complicated. Okay. So 1972 amendment 281 introduced, needed for disclosure of Benami transaction in the return or letter. August 72, Law Commission report we saw. February 1974 is very important, sir. Section 187C introduced in Companies Act. All it required is for purchase of share, if in the name of Benami, you must file a declaration form that the true owner of this, I'm a Benamidar. There is a good report of Select Committee of 1973, which led to this amendment of 1974. And I want you to read this because when we have time on some other occasion, when we deal with the Black Money Act of 2015, lot of confusion is there on meaning of beneficial owner. People are wrongly thinking shareholder of a company is a beneficial owner of the company. Wrong notions. Okay. So this February 74 amendment is based on a report of 73 of Joint Select Committee that explains the meaning of beneficial owner. I am told Chamber had a webinar and Honorable Minister Pramod Kumar delivered a lecture on beneficial ownership. Okay. You need not have to read much. Read this report of 1973. Pursuant to 187C was introduced. It gives a complete history of what beneficial owner is. Okay. Then May 1988, ordinance was passed. Very important. May 1988, ordinance was passed. And very shoddy piece of work. Then matter was referred to Law Commission. And Law Commission was told, you please give us a report within 1 week. I mean, too much pressure. Law Commission normally does a lot of research and gives report out of 1 or 2 years of study. That's the purpose of the Law Commission. So the Law Commission was asked to give a report in a quick time. And the Law Commission gave a report in August 88. It suggested so many changes. So if you compare the ordinance and the act as made in 1988, September 88 and May 1988, Zamin Asman ke farak hai. And all of them are because Law Commission recommended it. Okay. So we will see what the Law Commission recommended few minutes later. Then in 2011, an amendment bill was this was proposed. Bill was proposed. The bill lapsed. But there's a report of a standing committee of June 2012, qua that bill. Very, very useful report. It gives number of amendments proposed to 2011 bill and the reason for the amendments. Some of them have been part of 2016 Act, some of them are not part of it. If at all, minute points of the Benami Act is to be seen, you kindly see the report of June 2012 of the Standing Committee for the 2011 bill. Bill never saw the light of the day because House lapsed, etc. But it will be useful. Then April 2016, Standing Committee gave his report relating to the current amendment. And then November 16, the Amendment Act came into force. So kindly keep 3 dates in mind: May 88, August 88, or November 2016. Because lots of questions are being asked about retrospectivity, this being retrospective, etc. My dear friend, And the brilliant Devender Jain is asking me whether it's retrospective or not. So let him wait for my answer in about 15-20 minutes. But 3 dates I want you to remember. May 88 is the ordinance date, September 88 is the act, and November 16 is the act, amended act. Srina. 57th report simply said you don't need too many changes. Statute was already expert checking tax evasion in 281A. Fraud on private credit is already taken care of section 53 of the Transfer of Property Act. If these provisions are not enough, nothing will work. Okay. So there is no defect in the law. It is only because poor implementation. That's what commission said. Next. The commission said 1971 May, law should refuse to recognize a transaction without making them an offense. I want you to note this, very important. Justice Gajendra Gargar's report, I think, he said, don't make it a criminal offense. Please ensure that suits are barred. Law should in effect provide where property is transferred to Binami, Binamidar will become trail owner. That disincentive is enough. If you make the servant, the drivers, the owners, the disincentive is enough. So nobody will resort to Binami. That's what the recommendation 1972 is. Today in 2016, the law is you will lose the property, you will be put criminal penalty, you will put civil penalty, income tax addition. I don't know. Okay. Next. Go back. That fellow cannot file a suit saying I have paid the consideration. Other fellow claiming that I received as a gift. All that is not possible. And also they said you need not prohibit Binami transaction. After 15 years of the recommended law commission, in a mighty hurry, ordinance was passed. In the olden days, sometimes some circular is issued by CBDT and circular is sent by telex. Political parties raise a dispute. The circular is issued by CBDT to favor somebody. And one of the points which will be raised against CBDT is, what was the urgency? Why did you show such great urgency by sending a circular by way of telex message? One of my colleagues says telex was sent because a steno was on leave that day. Telex operator was available. Therefore, circular was sent by telex. Sometimes, some urgency is created artificially. Recommendation of the law commission 1973. They could have waited for a bill and introduced a bill and the act. Instead, unholy hurry, ordinance was enacted. But on the line suggested by law commission. Kindly note this. Ordinance prohibited real owner to file a suit to require possession of the property from the Binamidar. That continues even today in the form of section 4. Real owner also barred from making a similar claim in his defense statement. Somebody files a suit, he in his defense says, I am the true owner. So either as a plaintiff or as a defendant, both are barred. So this is the recommendation of the law commission that is truly incorporated in the ordinance. Exemption was granted for co-partner in a HUF. Exemption was also conferred for a trustee in a fiduciary capacity. So we will see the scope of this exemption a little later. What it said is no criminal offense, no prohibition of the Binami. All it said is suit cannot be filed by anybody, either as a plaintiff or as a defendant. However, HUF are not governed by the amendment. In other words, if a dispute arises within an HUF, whether it is for a member of the HUF or for the member or for HUF itself, that suit can be maintained. That saying that I am holding as a trustee, that is not barred. Next. Then this hurried report of the law commission is headed by my Lord Justice D.A. Desai, who was known for his strong socialist views. And he was the chairman of the law commission and very brilliant judge, Justice D.A. Desai. Okay. And we used to say, if you have a labor matter and you are in management, you need not appear in that court because 99% labor disputes will be decided in favor of the employees only by Justice Desai. And he openly used to say that I have a leftist leaning, socialist leaning. Nothing wrong in that. It's a thinking of a press, and that's how law is much more beautiful. First thing, there are about 7 recommendations. It said you must first define what property is, and you must say property is both movable, immovable, including agricultural land, because somebody said agricultural land falls in state list. Just Desai said don't bother, agricultural land also, if it's part of Binami, you can confiscate it. Then tangible and intangible, including intellectual properties. So important recommendation made by is don't confine it to physical property. It can even be copyright, patents, etc. All kinds of property. Second, he said there must be a section prohibiting Binami transactions. Nobody shall enter into Binami transaction. You must put that. Earlier ordinance said suit cannot be filed claiming ownership. That is half-hearted. Next he says you must put criminal penalty if you enter into Binami transactions. So line number 3 is equal to line number 2. Last line in this page, legislation should be retroactive in operation. Is specifically recommended. What is the meaning of retroactive? Some people said bar of suits should apply only for Binami transfers made after 1988. I repeat, the doubt was expressed that prohibition filing suits, preventing people from filing suits can apply only for Binami transfers made after 1988. Binami transfers made pre-1988, suits filed after 1988 should not be barred. That was a doubt. Law Commission said no. People had 15 years from 1971. If they had put on notice, if they went ahead with Binami transactions, they ran the risk. What risk? Not that they will be sent to jail. That part is not retrospective. Your right to go to the court disowning the transfer will not be confined only for transfers made after 1988. It will apply for transfers made pre-1988, but suits filed after 1988. Kindly note this very important line. Filing of suit post-1988, Act will apply. Even for Binami transfers made pre-88. It will not be limited in its application only for Binami transfers post-1988 and suits for them post-1988. This is what the Law Commission recommended. It's a very important point. Kindly note this. Next. The reason the Law Commission said is no locus postentiate. I don't know what's the meaning of it. They had more than 15 years notice to arrange the affairs. If post 71 also they entered a Binami transaction. This. Then the Law Commission recommended you should give exemption for purchase in the name of wife or minor daughter, not for son, not for brother, etc., etc. Wife or minor daughter. Next is very important. Acquisition of property to prevent unjust enrichment to Binamidar. He says now Binami will become the owner. That fellow has not paid a copper for it. The illegality is committed by the true owner. But why should the servant profit from it? Therefore, please enact provision to prevent the Binamidar from enriching himself by acquiring the property. And then Law Commission said repeal section 81 and 94 in addition to section 82. So now this report read with the earlier report, it did 3 things. It barred the true owner from going to the court. Virtually it means he has to surrender the property to the Binamidar. The second report said continue with that. Second report said please make it a criminal offense to enter into Binami so that you can go to jail. Third, they said please acquire the property. What is the difference between acquisition and confiscation? We'll see later. Acquire the property to prevent unjust enrichment to Binamidar. I don't know whether it's unjust enrichment to the government because they say there is no concept of unjust enrichment to the government. Concept can lead to private parties. Okay. This is what, sir, in income tax, I was told by Mr. C. Natarajan the late senior, brilliant senior counsel. It seems one big matter was going on in the High Court. The contention was, sir, I already paid the tax. I've already paid the interest. You are putting penalty also. You are putting prosecution also. How can it be? The court asked the Advocate General, it seems to be correct. How can so many things, tax, interest, penalty, prosecution, how can all of them lie? The Advocate General, it seems, overnight got ready in the matter, Mr. Thiruvenkadachari, and answered the court next day. Tax and interest, everybody has to pay. Penalty is to pay because to neutralize the ill-gotten gains made financially from the tax evasion. Because the tax evasion is able to defer the revenue, multiply the profit, etc., etc., to disgorge him of the profit made by him from tax evasion. Therefore, fiscal penalty. Then why prosecution, sir? Court asked. Prosecution is because tax evasion is a crime against the society and therefore should be prosecuted. Tax and interest, penalty and prosecution. Why am I giving this bhashan? Because when we see the Benami Act, it will bar civil remedy, it will provide for confiscation of the property, it will send you to jail and also put civil penalty. The parallel is based on this. That's the reason. Okay. The 1988 Act, Section 2A is very important. Benami transaction means any transaction in which property is transferred to one person for a consideration paid or provided by another. Simply said, if A pays consideration, property registered in the name of X, that is Benami. It did not exclude if it is the nature of intended to be a gift in favor of X, that will not be Benami. What we said in civil law, very, very important to know the intention behind the purpose. The example of illustration to section 81 says, circumstances do not show it is for the beneficial interest of X. That part of the definition of that part of the understanding of Benami was overlooked by 1988. In other words, Benami in civil law had a well-known meaning. Consideration provided by one and the transaction not intended to be a gift, but intended to be for the benefit of the person who paid the consideration. The definition 1988 forgot about the second leg. 2016 amendment takes care of this. According to me, you must understand this principle very clearly. The deficiency of 1988 amendment and some people are saying 2016 amendment is draconian. It is draconian, but some parts it gives relief to the parties and removes the rough edges of the 1988 Act. That's why I said note, no reference to intention oblique circumstance. Okay. Next. Section 3 said no person shall enter Benami transaction. Here, exemption is given for purchase name of wife of unmarried daughter. 3.3 said if you do this, you are liable for criminal prosecution. I want you to note the last two lines in this slide in italics. Purchasing a property by wife, husband in the name of wife or daughter is indeed a Benami transaction. Please note, the 1988 exemption did not say to purchase the name of wife, it is not a Benami transaction. That amendment is introduced in 2016. It is Benami transaction, no doubt, but you will not be sent to jail. In other words, exemption for Benami purchase name in the favor of wife or minor daughter saved you from prosecution under section 3. It continued to Benami transaction. Sir, how does it make a difference? Tomorrow the wife wants to retransfer. That may not be possible. Very important point. Note that. 1988 amendment did not say purchase for a wife is not Benami. It said it is Benami, but it will not send you to jail. 2016 amendment takes care of this lacuna. Next. Section 4 and 4.1 and 4.2 barred you from filing a civil suit. for claiming ownership. Kindly note, purchase in the name of wife or minor daughter is not exempt under section 4(3). Exemption under section 3 only from criminal sentence. In other words, tomorrow for whatever reason, the wife wants to claim this is a gift to me, or husband wants to claim that is the true. If the husband wants to claim is the true owner, then such a suit is barred. So kindly note, it's a Binami transaction. Prosecution not possible. However, bar of suits continue to apply under section 4, no exception. Bar of suits only applied for HUF and trustee. So this is second mistake of the law. So 3 mistakes of the 88 law. Definition of Binami transaction did not touch about the intention and the circumstances behind the transfer. It simply said he paid for consideration of Binami. Section 3, wife and minor daughter alone, but not son. It is criminal prosecution will not be there, but still a Binami. 4, barred civil suits. Exemption is only for HUF and trustee. But if husband and wife, tomorrow somebody wants to file a claim that is a Binami, not Binami, such a suit is barred. 2016 amendment takes care of that. Okay, next. Section 5 says all properties held Binami shall be subject to acquisition in such manner as may be prescribed. Provision relating to acquisition never effectively enforced because no authority was constituted. Section 7 repealed 81, 82 and 94 of the Indian Trust Act. Ordinance repealed only 82. But this repealed 81, 82 and 94, 66 of CPC and 281 of the Income Tax Act. Therefore, theoretically speaking, Binami purchases between 88 and 2016 in the name of wife or minor daughter, it can be acquired under this act. Because all properties held Binami is liable to acquisition. Criminal prosecution is not there in section 3. Suit cannot be filed. This is a lacuna in the 88 Act. Okay, right. So I want to first touch upon the so-called retrospectivity of 1988 Act and 2016 Act. And I want you all not to mix up retrospectivity of 3 different situations. 1, bar of filing suits. That is 1. Section 4. Section 3, criminal prosecution. Nobody shall enter into Binami transaction and criminal prosecution, section 3. And section 5, acquisition. So when you discuss about retrospective of acquisition, please don't mix up with retrospective of section 4 or section 3. 3 different situations. I repeat, acquisition retrospective is separate. Bar of civil suit retrospective is different, and prohibition of Binami transaction and criminal prosecution retrospective is different. Let us not mix it up. As far as section 4 is there, which barred civil suits, this was effective from May 1988. My submission is, nobody ever doubted that bar of suits under 4 will apply only to Binami transfers made after 88. Nobody ever made a claim that, sir, if the Binami transfer takes place after May 88 only, I am barred from filing a suit. Bar created by section 4 will apply even for Binami transfer effected before 1988. No fresh suit will lie post 1988, even for Binami transfers made before B 1988. Suit already filed before 1988 with a plea of property being held Binami will not be affected 1988 Act. Kindly note the last 4th line. In Mithilesh Kumari, Supreme Court took the view even pending suits are not maintainable. Mithilesh Kumari, I repeat, took the view Binami transfer pre-88, suit filed pre-88 not yet disposed of, pending in 88. Mithilesh Kumari took the view such suits are also not maintainable. Rajagopal Reddy Constitution Bench overruled Mithilesh Kumari on this limited point only. It said, Benami transfer pre-88, suits filed pre-88, they are not hit by post-1988 amendment because the section 4 said, no suit shall lie. Suit shall lie means filed. That's what Supreme Court said. Nobody said, Rajagopal Reddy did not say that if the Benami transfer took place pre-88, suit is filed first time post-1988, that suit is also maintainable. It didn't say that. So let us be clear, this part of the law is already settled. Suits pending on 1988 alone are not hurt by section 4. Date of Benami transfer is irrelevant. If the transfer is post-88, question certainly doesn't arise. Even if it is pre-88, suit filed after 88 will be barred by section 4. This part is already settled, no controversy. Rajasthan High Court, Calcutta High Court, वो सब इससे कोई लेना देना नहीं है. Okay. Okay, next. A purchased a property, Benami, in 1975. Suit filed in 87 by claiming the transfer to Benami will be unaffected by section 4 1988. Appeals therefrom will also not be affected because appeal is a continuation. But suit is filed in 1989. For the above Benami transfer in 1975, it will be barred by section 4 of the 1988 Act. Criminal liability will arise only for Benami transfers made after 5/9/1988. 5/9/88 is the date of the act because section 3 now says Benami, no person shall enter into Benami transaction and will be liable. Therefore, as far as criminal liability is concerned, it will apply only for Benami transaction entered into post September 1988. So on this criminal part also, there is no retrospectivity. Even the new act says, in respect of offences committed by post 2016, they will be governed by the new provisions. It also says that we'll see that section clearly. Okay, next. The Benami transaction post 2016 amendment. Kindly note line A is practically same as 1988. Property is transferred, consideration is provided by somebody else. A pays the consideration, property registered in the name of X. That will be. That's the law as to 1988. But they also added the word property is transferred or is held by. Why is the word held by is very important, and there's some confusion created by this, is held by. In Can Finance case, Supreme Court took the view when a share is issued, it is a creation of a right and not transfer of a right, following Code Breweries, etc. So issue of fresh shares is amounted to creation, not transfer. The 1988 definition of Benami said transfers of property. So therefore, if I pay for shares, A pays for subscription to the shares, but get the shares registered in the name of X. That will not be Benami because there is no transfer. To get over that, the word is held by is added. I wanted to note is held by is added only to get over Can Bank Finance. Some people are saying is held by makes it a continuing offense, continuing default, and therefore no retrospectivity arises. I will deal with it a little later, but right now note is held by is to take care of cases of creation of assets and not transfer of assets, and to overcome like shares, and to overcome Can Bank's Finance on this. It is not to make it a continuing offense. B is added in 2016 to bring the definition in light with the well-known meaning of the term Benami. The 1988 definition, second part khali aawo, gab ho gayi, and that made a nonsense of that section. The B has put it correctly. property is held for the immediate or future benefit, direct and indirect, of the person who's provided the consideration. It is not intended to be a gift. If it is intended to be a gift to my driver, it will not be Benami even today. I'm mentioning this because for some reason you are trapped by the Benami Act. Okay. You want to say, "Arey, property the driver ke paas jaane do, mere ko jail nahi jana, I need not put penalty." You may now come up with the defense. Sir, it was not Benami. It was given to my driver as a gift. Therefore, Act doesn't apply. Your property will in any case go. The fellow will confiscate it. He will send you to jail, put penalty. So you can rely upon B to limit your damage to say, "Sir, I intended to be a gift to my driver or whatever it is for loyalty of service. Therefore, it is not Benami." It's a far-fetched argument, but you can try that. Okay. These are the clause A is similar to old law, but B and new are significant. Revised definition of Benami transaction narrower, not wider. This definition is now closer to judicially recognized meaning of Benami. Old law referred to transfer of property. 2016 law held by a person. Thus, creation of property, issue of shares are now covered if it is Benami. Pre-2016 transfer of property alone covered. See Can Bank Finance. Now overcome. A purchased out property for 2.5 crores in 2014. Mr. X, that is A's father, paid the consideration out of his saving. Property registered in the name of A. Assume property is not for beneficial interest of father. This is the important thing. Let us assume that is the nature of gift to the son. Pre-2016, this transaction would have been regarded as a Benami transaction. Definition 2A simply referred to supply of consideration to somebody else. Property could have been acquired by the government. Even if exemption to section 4.3 applied, X could have filed a suit, could not have filed. Could not, it's a typing mistake. Even if it's a typing mistake from my side, even if 4.3 exemption applies, could have only filed, sorry, is correct. There was no typing mistake. X could have only filed a suit for claiming the property. Okay. Post 2016, transaction would not be treated as Benami. As in the example, it is not held for the future benefit of X. Okay. Next. So that whole idea is to distinguish between a gift and this. We purchased a property in 1975. This is the name of Y is relative. Y is holding the property even in 2020 to be transferred to B, or B is nominee at his direction. So Y is not the beneficial owner. B is the true owner. Y is a nominee only. In 1975, transfer not a prohibited transaction. In 1988, it was a prohibited transaction. There was no bar holding on property Benami because the section simply said transferred. Suit for exercise in the right will be barred. In 2020, with holding of property itself be hit by it, is a very important point I want to say. Somebody says the property Benami transfer took place in 1975. It continued to be held Benami. Therefore, Act can apply because the continuing offense. Answer is no. If it's a continuing offense, or a continuing cause of action, offense is committed every day. You know, Mayarani Punj, you know, Supreme Court judgment, delay in filing the return is a continuing offense. And therefore, penalty provisions on the day the penalty is imposed will arise. Not the day the return was due. Mayarani Punj, same thing, continuing offense. According to me, the whole word hold does not make a continuing offense. Held was introduced in the section to overcome can bans and to take care of cases not involving transfer of property but creation of property. What is the further reason I say the 1975 Benami transfer continued to be held by the Benamidar will not be hit by 29A because 3.1 says no person shall enter into Benami transaction. Continuing a holding is not criminalized. The word Benami in 4.1 and 4.2 should be understood in the ordinary sense. Okay, right. Now, there are a series of exemptions granted. If HEF is holding it for the benefit of a member of HEF, it will not be a Benami transaction. It is excluded outright from the definition. Unlike the past, which excluded from filing of suit, but criminal liability is exposed. Acquisition of property is exposed. This amendment makes it clear it will not business Benami transaction at all. So no acquisition possible, no criminal liability, bar of suits also doesn't apply. Very important. Tomorrow you want to claim that I am the true owner. In respect of these exempted categories, suits will be maintainable. Very important point. If father and son fall out and tomorrow one of them want to claim the true owner, such a suit is not barred. Okay. Right. Second exemption is a trustees, fiduciary capacity.
May I interrupt,
Yes,
sir? Earlier, the main definition, A, there are many points, especially for the income tax point of view, that the held or even transfer, it requires the possession with the real owner or possession with the Benamidar. Possession of the property is important in the first main definition. Who should be having possession of the Benami property?
So it should be pre-existing. As you rightly said, it should be pre-existing and then there is a transfer possible. If it comes in the first time in the form of creation by issue of the share capital, that was not covered. That's what Can Bank Finance said.
No.
Correct? No, that's what you want to say, no?
The issue is transfer or held. X has X is Benamidar, A has paid the consideration. Let's say A has purchased a property by giving money, but property stands in the name of his servant X. Now possession has to be with A only. Possession is relevant in which possession the property is. But
Yes. Very correct. Very correct. Just Vupul bhai, just wait for a few minutes. Very good point.
Yes.
Let me finish these two slides and come back.
Yes.
Now, one more thing, property held in the name of spouse or children are also exempted. In fact, when Benami law came, my father-in-law was an 8-year-old man at that time. He telephoned me, Sridhar and I have purchased property in my wife's name. What will happen? I said, Appa, don't bother buying in wife's name and children's name. If it is from known sources of income, no problem. Okay. So this was not there earlier. Earlier was only for minor daughter and wife. Now for children and spouse, either way. But should be from known sources of income. Known sources. What is the meaning of known sources? We will see. Whether known source in income tax is relevant, because there is no question of filing a return under the Benami Act. Where do you disclose under this? Whether known sources in the income tax, unknown source in income tax becomes unknown here. That's a different area that you all will explore. All I want to say is, how do you decide known source? Should it be not declared in income tax return automatically becomes not known source? There's a point to be discussed. Okay. Of course, consideration even now, exemption is available only if it is from known sources. For trustee and fiduciary, that point is not relevant. Okay, next. BCD are new introduction in 2016 Act. Buy in fictitious name or the Benamidar denies knowledge or the person who has paid the consideration is fictitious. These are expanded definition of Benami. The question is, Vupul bhai will answer this in 2-3 minutes after we finish the slides, whether these are different from sham transaction, whether BCD, even after introduction of B, C and D in 2.9, sham transactions are outside the purview of the Act. That's a question. And whether continued possession, which Vupul bhai asked, we will see that. Next. There's a famous judgment of Lord Diplock of 1961 or 67 or so. A transaction with both parties agree to the transaction to be mere paper transaction, sham transaction. X and Y enter into an agreement. A cannot come and say agreement in X and Y is sham. X and Y should say, sir, it's a sham transaction. Parties to the transaction should agree it's a sham. They didn't intend to implement it. They're not open to third party, including revenue, to say that. According to me, subject to discussion, I may be wrong. Even now, sham transactions are not covered by the Benami Act. Whatever else Act may apply, whether normal IPC will apply, cheating, forgery, etc., that's a different matter. Benami Act may not apply. In a Benami transaction actually exists, but record the name of Benamidar. Okay, next. Yeah, okay. Sir, on the retrospectivity, because that's I'm told is an important point. As far as criminal prosecution is concerned, there will be no liability because 3.3 post 2016 says Benami transaction entered into post 2016 will be subject to punishment of chapter 7. So therefore, pre 2016 offences will be governed by old 3.2. 3.3 says offences after 2016 alone will be governed by chapter 7. And 53 defines what is an offence. It is to defeat provision of law, avoid payment of duties, payment of creditors, etc. So therefore, as far as criminal liability is concerned, there is no retrospective at all. Act is prospective alone. Post 2016 breach will be tried under post 2016 law. Pre 2016 breach will be tried under the old law. Next. Confiscation retrospectivity is a major of controversy. In my view, I may be disappointing all of you. I may be incorrect. I wish and pray I am incorrect, but there is no retrospectivity in this. I'll explain this in a minute. Pre 2016, Section 5 provided for acquisition of property by prescribed authority. No rules prescribed, no authority is prescribed. New Section 5 provides for confiscation. Query: Benami transfer effected pre 1988 will it be either under old act or a new section? My view, no. They cannot apply to pre 1988 Benami transfers. No question. Let me repeat. Pre 1988 transfers will not be governed by the either 88 Act or 2016 Act. Okay. Then, because Benami property is defined as which is subject matter Benami transaction. A transaction should be Benami post 2088, post 88. Therefore, pre 88 transfers are not liable for acquisition or confiscation. No problem on this. On this, I'm in favor of most of you. Next. What is the difference between acquisition and confiscation? This is my version. I'm not saying I'm right. You can interpret differently. Both are compulsory to the extent mandated by the law. Compulsory acquisition bolte hain, confiscation also is no voluntary thing. This is not a voluntary transfer. Perhaps acquisition need not be preceded by a breach or violation of law. Ordinarily, confiscation would be sequel to breach of law. You import goods which are not permitted for import. That will be confiscated. You have a land, but government requires the land for road development. You're not done anything illegal, etc. They acquire the land. Generally, acquisition will be with compensation. The post 88 2016 Act said no compensation will be paid. So the word acquisition was slightly inappropriate. More precise word will be confiscation. The word confiscation is now used by the legislature to indicate that there is a prohibition of Benami. You put through the transfer contrary to that. Therefore, I want to take away that property. Acquisition need not be preceded by a breach. Confiscation is generally preceded by a breach. But nobody says if there is a breach, you cannot do acquisition. Acquisition can be for a non-mala fide act. But if it is a mala fide act, certainly acquisition is possible. Therefore, there is no difference. No mileage can be drawn by us on change in the nomenclature from acquisition to confiscation. That is my first view. I may be right, I may be wrong. Next. Question now raised is, no authority, no machinery prescribed under old section 5. My answer is, once a transfer is Benami effected post 1988, machinery of new section 5 can apply. There is no retrospectivity since nobody has a vested right to a forum. Confiscation operates prospectively. If you confiscate today, he is not saying whatever fruits of enjoyed for the last 20 years, rent, etc., will also be taken away. Past property and the property are not being taken away. Therefore, confiscation is operating prospectively. Benami transfer may be one-time event, but the character of the Benami property is a continuing one. I am not saying on the word held is not. But Benami property, transaction of Benami may be taken place once, but the characters of Benami property may be continuing one. That's my doubt. This judgment of Dhanpat Oil Mills is what is troubling me. In Dhanpat Oil Mills, I think it's a case of Produce Cess Act. You have to file return to the collector, etc. No collector was appointed at all for 3 years. After he was appointed, he asked for the past payment with interest. Party said there was no collector prior to that date. I will be liable only from today. Supreme Court said you are liable today, but not from today, but for past transactions also. Act was there, machinery is not there. Once the machinery is created, you'll be bound by the new machinery, not from the day the machinery is created, but for the past period. Ponnu's case is an income tax case. You can look at it, it may support you, but my own belief it is distinguishable. And therefore, there is no question of retrospectivity. Now I want to go to the last leg of the slides, and it's a completely different. Just
sir,
1 minute, sir.
Yes.
Sharmaji, just 2 minutes.
Yeah. No,
I
was
just want to
saying-
finish. Just 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Because a very important point.
Yeah.
This is on bona fide purchaser. What is the possession? Vipul Bhai asked, I said section 41 of the Transfer of Property Act. 27(2) is also similar. 27(2) says, bona fide purchase from the Benamidar, he will not be affected, that property will not be confiscated. It is similar to section 41. Not 40, 41 of the Transfer of Property Act. But most important is the acquisition by the transfer or purchase should be prior to a notice issued under 24(1). If after the notice is issued, if you purchase, even if you are bona fide, no protection, your property will be taken away. So limited protection for a bona fide purchaser without notice for a Benami property only if authority has not issued notice under 24(1). That's a limited point I want to clarify. Next. Before that, just hold on, go back. In this example, Vipul Bhai, you were asking, answer is the sale proceeds can be confiscated by the department from the true owner and the Benamidar. What they cannot do is they cannot go after the purchaser. But the Benamidar or the true owner would have got sale proceeds. That they can confiscate. In other words, government is protected. Government may not get the property itself, but they may get the sale proceeds. And that proceeds will against the true owner and the Benamidar, original owner and Benamidar, whereas the purchaser will be spared of the property. That line I have not added in this slide, but I want you to note this. Even 27(2) does not prevent the department from going after the Benamidar or the true owner qua the sale proceeds of the transfer. Yes, next. 27(3) says, on confiscation, property will vest in the government free of encumbrances. However, of course, if encumbrances have been created bona fide under 27(2), they will be saved, because 27(2) says property purchased by the purchaser is saved. So the encumbrance is bona fide transfer, no problem. But otherwise, the government gets the property free of encumbrances. Go to the next. In CB Gautam's case, in case of acquisition of compulsory acquisition of property by the appropriate authority, Supreme Court struck it down. The word free of encumbrances is struck down. In many court sales also, auction purchaser also gets it subject to the title will be same as the seller. Here it is not free. This section says free of encumbrances. CB Gautam, when it said free of encumbrances, Supreme Court struck down. Query is whether the same principle can apply. Can we challenge this part of the section? It's a futile thing, but that's all I wanted to say. Anything that's all. One last point. Section 6 says once it's a Benami property, retransfer is not possible. Sir, in my school mathematics, I used to write 2 by 2 is 0. Or 100 by 100 is 0. No, it is 1. Once a transfer is Benami, retransfer cannot annul it. As we say, when A sells to B a property by conveyance deed, B cannot resell B to A by cancelling the deed. It has to be a fresh deed. The cancellation deed amounts to a fresh transfer. A has transferred to B. B wants to transfer it back to A. It has to be by another transfer deed. You may call it cancellation deed or reconveyance deed, whatever it is. Similarly, 6.1 says, once the property is Benami, before the officer comes, the Benami that transfers back to the original owner. वो नहीं चलेगा. 6.2 says, all such transfers are void. However, note that the bar applies only for Benami property. The bar is to ensure that such transfers are not used to defeat the act. Exception 1 to 4 are not Benami at all. Then retransfer is possible. For example, the husband has purchased the name of wife. Tomorrow, he wants the property to be transferred back from wife to husband. That may not be barred by section 6. This position is significantly different from what was proposed in 2011 bill. In 2011 bill, they specifically said, we will not permit retransfer from wife to husband or son to father. That is not incorporated in 2016. It is possible. In other words, exception 1 to 4 will not be heard by section 6. Retransfer is possible. That's all. Anything
Hello.
else?
Hello.
That's all, sir. From my side, everything is over, sir.
Sir, from
Yes.
your side, but I was thinking,
Yes, sir.
Miss, you have a treasure of knowledge.
Hmm.
As you were mentioning, you have studied trust law for 2 months, Benami law for 1 month. So that full treasure we cannot take in one session. There are so
Okay.
many questions in our other part that interplay with income tax is still remaining.
Yes,
And
sir.
it is time is around 1:28 now. So what I was thinking is, if you permit, sir, we can keep second session for the other parts. Vipul Bhai has also got so many questions, issues. So
Okay.
we can discuss those issues and can keep in the second part, sir.
When do you want to do it?
That will decide, sir, as per your convenience. I will check the date, your date,
You
and
tell-
then we'll.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Thank
No
you so
problem
much,
at
sir.
all.
Yeah,
Ah.
then whatever today's discussion, whatever the some relevant issues will be there, that we can keep it. I will tell my other
problem.
members to take it. Vipul
Okay.
Bhai, if you have some question in today's discussion, you may please do that. Vipul Bhai, please. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Vipul Bhai. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, sorry.
Vipul Bhai, I was
Yeah,
saying,
yeah, yeah.
I requested SA for the second session.
Yeah, yeah.
Our main other part of
So,
interest.
Sharmaji, I heard that mine was on
Ah,
mute.
Yeah, okay.
And,
Then if in today's discussion, if you have any other issue, then you can just discuss.
Or
out
we
of
can
today's-
discuss all together. Sharmaji, I suggest, because
Okay,
it's
sir.
1:30, we can,
Okay.
subject your, I have no problem. We can
Yes,
discuss
sir.
all together in next session whenever you fix it. Okay.
Right, sir. Right,
Only,
sir.
sir, one question, not on any
Yes, sir.
specific thing what we discussed, but
Ah.
your overview, sir, that whether the government has got overboard on, giving, so as you rightly pointed out, confiscation, penalty, fine, so many things. Is it, these harsh measures are whether disproportionate to the offense supposed to have been committed
Yes,
by?
they are disproportionate. But as a lawyer, what is your answer? You cannot get it struck down in the court, no?
Sir, legal is different and fairness is different.
Otherwise, it's highly disproportionate. highly
Double
dis-
jeopardy, so to some extent, the double
confiscation,
jeopardy.
confiscation, criminal prosecution, civil penalty, once again tax.
So principle of
And
double jeopardy may be applicable here. I
नहीं
don't know.
बिल्कुल नहीं बिल्कुल नहीं बिल्कुल नहीं
Because
perfectly
sir,
constitutionally valid. Whether government should have done it or not is a different question. Court cannot give you relief. It will not be struck down. No
On
part of it will
equity.
be struck down.
yeah, on equity, of course,
Equity.
So
No, that
because
is for politicians to speak. As a lawyer, we have to take the law as given to us.
so because the one of the ideas was to prevent somebody from defrauding creditors. Now taking over the property from both the persons,
Nay, these similar provisions are there in Smuggling, Prevention of Corruption Act, so many acts, Money Laundering Act, and these are based on UN recommendation.
only he will be
These are
suffering.
based on
The poor creditor who
UN
transaction.
recommendation.
So the creditor only going to suffer because government takes over the property.
Yeah.
Benami transaction.
No problem. Okay.